Yay. All right, let's do it. Fall 2024. Hello. I am Maggie Tillman.
Bob Tillman.
That's my father.
Molly Lomborg.
Our winemaker and my dear friend. So, welcome everybody. We're really excited tonight. This is the first time ever that we've actually opened this up to, in addition to our longtime members, we did invite some other folks to join, and this is their first time getting to know Alta Colina. So welcome. We're very excited about it. This is a pretty special thing that, you know, we all had to come up with some creative ideas of how to stay connected during COVID, and this has continued to be a really cool program. It's something that we hope to continue. It will depend on sort of how much demand there is. So we're delighted to see all of you tonight. And the plan, we are going to taste through the brand new fall 2024 releases. So these are all wines that will be going out in fall shipments. As always, you can customize to rearrange to whatever you'd like. You can add on your favorites.
We encourage that, actually.
We encourage it. This is a great time to stock up. And there's also opportunity to purchase library wine right now. And there's only, I want to say 5 cases, Ivy, is that right? 5 cases of the 2016 available. So we'll get to that wine. We'll talk through it and taste it together. I did want to throw it over to Ivy for a second just to say hello. She does so much work to put this on and get wines to everybody. And then she stays very quietly in a dark, screen. So I'm going to make her say hi.
Hi guys, great to see everyone. Thank you for continuing to support this tasting. It means a lot to us, and I'm really excited to hear what you think about the wines. I'll be on the chat. You all got a text from me earlier. You know where to find me, and I'll be in touch this week to see if I can help you customize your order at all. So thank you again.
Yay! Thanks, Ivy. All right, so we want to talk a little bit about what's happening in real time here in the winery building and up on the vineyard. Feel free to sip on a little Roussanne. Don't finish it all, but if you do, we won't be mad. But hopefully you'll have enough to taste through with us. But I want to have Molly sort of fill you in on where we are. It's 24's, it's kooky.
Yeah, I feel like every vintage is kooky now.
Yes.
People say, is this an early harvest or a late harvest? And we kind of go, compared to what?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it kind of started off, well, we've had our second wet winter in a row, which has been amazing for the vines. We've been working really hard in the vineyard all year to keep honing in our regenerative farming practices. And all of this combined has kind of created a situation we realized in August of, wow, our fruit is so beautiful, and wow, we have so much.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting for those of you that aren't local. There was a really bad late frost in Paso Robles in the spring, and people didn't realize how bad, like what the extent of the damage was going to be. But as we started picking, people started seeing vineyards just coming in short across the board. My husband's the vineyard manager and runs grower relations at Tobless Creek, and they source about half of their fruit from local vineyards. And he hasn't had one pick that actually came in at the tonnage that they were contracted for.
All according to plan.
Right. So it was kind of interesting when we started harvesting and redoing our projections. And I'm like, oh my God, babe, we were so heavy. We have so much fruit. And he's like, really? Like, how? And so we are Alta Colina. Our name literally means high hill. So if you've had a chance to come to our vineyards, we're all located, all of our fruit is grown between 1,550 and 1,750 feet. So the nice thing about that is we're above the frost zone. So we really think that kind of being above the frost zone, our regenerative farming practices and the wet winter just created this perfect storm for perfect fruit. So harvest has been really interesting this year. It started a little later than normal, but as the whites rolled in, we were just full on busy. We also had a really busy summer, and we disgorged our soon to be released Lynn's Cuvée, which was a Méthode Champenoise sparkling wine that we left on tirage for 4 years. And we disgorged that on a Monday, Tuesday. And then we literally brought in our sparkling fruit that Thursday. So it was kind of amazing how fast everything happened. And from that point, we were just busy, 11-hour days, bringing in all of our whites, rosé, pet nat, carbonic, all of kind of our earlier pick, fresher wines. And then we hit this funny little cold spell. And we really had a very warm growing season, but we hit this cold spell and we saw all of our bricks, our sugar content, literally either stall or go backwards. And it was a really interesting phenomenon because I haven't seen this much in my career, but we saw a stall for like over a week, even though the heat ended up picking back up. So it's kind of funny that I would say in the past 10 days prior to this week, we maybe harvested one lot. We had 2 pump overs of reds going. And then we got beginning of October, of course, another crazy Paso heat wave. So we are literally sitting in temperatures that are 108 degrees right now.
It's Paso's hot, but this is not normal.
No, our
No.
night cooled down to about 75 last night.
Not
So
normal.
it is rather crazy at the moment. So that definitely gave all the grapes a swift kick in the booty. And tomorrow, I think we're going to have our biggest day crushing fruit at Alta Colina ever. So
Molly, what would you say in terms of reds that have come in? How many tons have come in, and what do you think we're going to bring in tonight? And then what do you think is going to left over afterwards?
Oh, you're making me do math.
I mean, give or
okay.
take.
So
or
we've
take.
probably brought in, I'm going to say 11 tons of reds, maybe. And we probably have 13 coming in tomorrow or tonight. It's starting the pick in a few hours. And we probably have another 50 left to go. These are real give or take.
Yep.
So we'll be doing a large portion of our harvest tomorrow.
So Ivy, can you go back a slide? I want to comment on a couple of things here. Go back one more. You have, I want to see the old, yeah, keep going.
Uh-oh, there's a graph.
Keep going, roll back one more.
You can tell Bob was involved.
One more.
I think we're going the wrong way.
All right, good. All right. No, I just wanted
Oh.
to point out, there's been some changes in our situation here. This picture was taken in, I want to say
21.
Okay. And if you notice that's our crush pad, you can see that we're crushing. I don't know why we call it crushing, because actually the grapes are perfectly round and uncrushed. But the general idea there is you see a forklift that's dumping a picking bin into a hopper on the far left. That there's below that is a shaker table where we are inspecting clusters as they move from left to right, and they fall into a bin at the bottom of that 45-degree angle gizmo there, which is a destimmer. And coming out the bottom of that destimmer are the berries, which are then coming down a second shaker table where we are inspecting and trying to remove little bits of stem that might sneak through, or leaves or that kind of thing. And then the stems themselves are falling. It looks like they're sprouting out of the back of Eloy's head right now, but that's actually
On the very right.
yeah,
like over here. in the
Eloy's the guy
frame.
with the black hoodie, and yeah, you can see the stems are falling into a bin. Now jump ahead a couple slides, Ivy.
This is exciting, you guys. It doesn't look cool, but I
this-
promise it's incredibly cool.
All right, here we go. There are 2 pictures here. It's kind of hard to figure it out, but focus on the right hand. It shows the new setup that we have. You can again see the forklift dumping the bin, although you notice it's a heck of a lot higher this time. We have a raised, sort of a track kind of gizmo as opposed to a shaker table.
Little conveyor belt.
Conveyor belt. There you go. Thank you. Where again, cluster inspections happens. It falls into another gizmo. This one goes 45 degrees down instead of 45 degrees up. And then we have the same shaker table that's spitting out perfect, like caviar, except just a little bit bigger. It's truly awesome. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. Things are changing around here a little bit.
Yeah, our goal is always, we're a small business, we're a family business. And so these are really big investments for us to make. And it's really exciting to be able to say, hey, Molly, here's like a pretty big upgrade in terms of the hardware for the crush pad. And when Bob says caviar, it's sort of a joke when you talk to winemakers and folks who work in cellars. It's when you start on one end of that machine with a cluster of grapes, not dissimilar to what you'd buy at the grocery store. And then it spits out the other end perfectly plucked grapes, but it's mechanical. So you can imagine that's relatively sophisticated hardware to do that successfully without squishing the grapes themselves and without mixing in a bunch of stems. And it's upgrade.
Actually, I
Very
have
good
to,
grain.
it's actually crude as hell. You would not believe how awful the
Come on.
mechanical engineering is on these damn things, but they work great. It's as a retired electrical engineer, I'm always puzzled how these guys get those things to work.
It's,
Yeah. I hope there's no MEs out there. Sorry about that. Nothing
oh
personal.
no, we have engineer jokes. So let's get into some Roussanne.
Yeah.
We also want to point out our beautiful pairings, and we are really excited. You know, this is the second time in a row that we've collaborated with our friends at Stepladder Creamery, and they're also very small production and family owned. And so they sort of make a handful. We try to guess how many folks will be able to join us for the pairings. And I know we were off on a few. So please do check out Stepladder Creamery. They're incredibly cool folks, and they're located about 45 minutes away from us on the coast. We visited them. This was 2.5 years ago.
Mhm.
Yeah,
22. It
in
was 2 years ago,
22.
yeah.
And they have goats, they raise pigs, they make cheeses. It's a really cool setup. So we're excited.
Let me interject a
Oh.
little hint of wisdom here.
Uh-oh.
I have a few hints of wisdom I'm going to throw in today.
Uh-oh.
This one comes from Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec,
Oh, okay.
course.
famous impressionist painter.
Yeah.
Quote unquote, I will drink milk when cows eat grapes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Just thought I'd throw that in right there.
But also eat the cheese. No, we let Dad loose for about 3 hours this afternoon ahead of this. He's done some preparation.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
ready.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I'm loaded.
Yes. Luckily, we're starting with literal butter.
Yeah.
So
And
you
we
know.
we apologize for those of you that tried to get the cheese pairings but couldn't. We heard there was a few technical
We
difficulties, so we're really
did.
sorry about that.
we did. Yes.
Yeah.
So 2022 Model Citizen Roussanne. This wine is something we didn't make for a long time. And again, for those who are new to Alta Colina, new to our wines, new to us, we are focused strictly on Rhone varieties, and everything we do, we farm on site here. So for those of you who know the wines well, we talk about this constantly. We're big farming nerds. I'm surrounded by winemaking nerd royalty right now. And it's also a really beautiful balance of farming science and sort of artistry. And one of the gifts of farming everything here, and the fact that we're always a state, we're never buying grapes from someone else's vineyard, is we get to know the property over time. And as we cruise along, there are a few wines that when we planted this vineyard, we knew we were going to make them, right? Like that was the intention behind planting it. And then there are a few wines that we feel as though we sort of discovered along the way. Model Citizen Roussanne is one of those. Roussanne was not something we planned on highlighting and having a standalone bottling. We were just slow on the uptake. We either would sell the grapes to other winemakers or we would blend it. And in, I don't know, 2016,
It's
15,
earlier than that. About
14,
Yeah, maybe in there.
we're gonna say 15, give or take. We basically learned our lesson and decided to stop selling as much Roussanne so that we could bottle Model Citizen. And Dad, can you talk a little bit about how we ended up with that name on the bottle?
Well, let's go to the slide, Ivy, that shows
Oh,
the Roussanne block, if you will. I think it makes it very easy to explain the name. Basically, the idea is that Roussanne needs a little bit of time in bottle. You wouldn't think that of a white wine. Normally, you'd think you'd get it bottled and drink it right away. Roussanne tends to be kind of closed and very quiet and unassuming for a year or so. Here we go. So this is a view looking at down on our vineyard from a drone. The arrow is pointing to the Model Citizen block, which is those vines that are right at the tip of the arrow. And if you look at them, it's hard, from where I sit, it's hard to tell, but it's perfect, basically. We call them Model Citizens when we were farming for years before we ever figured out to make the wine. If you glance to across the road to the left of that big block down below the barn, you can see that there's occasional little white things in there. Those are replants. Those are the grow tubes that we put in around vines that have died that we're replanting. Whereas if you look in the Model Citizen, there is none of that. It's
There's
just
these perfect rows.
it's just another comment or two. Just looking at this captures a lot, I think, of the beauty of our vineyard. The winery that we're sitting in is behind the barn and down the hill, tucked in the valley that's between those sort of undulating green hills you see back there in the mountain we're taking the picture of. Off to the left in the distance, you might be able to see the Pacific Ocean from this height. I'm not sure. It's from this
I
picture,
think
you
we've-
can't tell.
Mhm.
We've Adelaide blocks it.
Okay, it's
Well, in the drone, maybe.
yeah, they were up pretty high
That's
here.
true.
And then of course there's I don't know if we have anybody here from Texas, but if you look at the block, sorry.
Where are we going with this, Bob?
No idea.
If you look at the block just below the barn,
It looks like Texas.
it looks like Texas.
It kind of does. I've never
It-
noticed that.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
quite similar to Texas, and we appreciate your patronage, those of you in Texas. Thank you very much.
Uh,
On with the Roussanne, please.
on with the Roussanne.
Mhm.
So again, 2022 vintage. So this came off the vine 2 years ago. And Molly is definitely the right person to talk about sort of how this came to be and what are the things that we're really proud of and want you to pay attention to, particularly on this wine.
Yeah, so this is it's one of our favorites here at Alta Colina. Our fall whites is our 2 fall white offerings are always Roussanne and Marsanne, and they're 2 wines that I ferment in barrel, I age in barrel, and we leave them in barrel for about 16 months prior to bottling, and then they get bottle aged for another 9-10 months before we release them to you. And the Roussanne is so interesting how much it changes during that time. Sometimes it'll go into bottle feeling a little closed off. And then this time of year you open it and like you can smell, you just have this honeycomb and like a star fruit, like kind of like a waxy yellow fruit, just kind of popping out of the glass right now. And this wine's fun. We do it almost all in neutral oak. I do 1 new barrel every year in this wine. So this was actually 64% French oak and then 36% Hungarian oak. So all older Hungarian oak barrels. So they shouldn't have had a lot of like flavor impact. But yeah, you'll get like a little bit of that like creaminess coming from the 1 new barrel that's in there. But also just all that time it's spent on the lees. By fermenting in the same barrels that they age in, it just really rounds out that whole palate and gives it this like broad, beautiful weight. And I always get like we call these our fall whites, but they just like when you take a sip, it literally tastes like fall. Like I get maple drizzled butternut squash on this wine.
Delicious.
And this wine too, I pick it again because we're a state vineyard here. And our vineyard manager, Daniel Martinez, and I work very closely on everything. He doesn't mind when I pick the grapes multiple times. So if we were trying to buy the fruit from someone, I couldn't say, oh, I'm going to buy 4.5 tons and I want to pick it 3 times in different intervals of 1.5 tons. They'd be like, get lost, lady.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're here, we farm it. He understands what I'm trying to do with the wines, makes it really easy. So this particular block, we harvested 2 different times. So we kind of split the ripeness. It was about a week apart in 2022, but in Paso that can change things quite a bit. So it's pretty fun. We always vinify everything separately, leave it for a year, taste everything again, and then we start to put our blends together. I like to let them harmonize for about 6 months before we bottle them.
And we should mention the cheese also.
Yeah.
That pairing is awesome.
Yeah. So this is the Stepladder. It's literally their cultured butter, which Emily has told me what that means multiple times. I do not remember. But the main thing is that cultured butter means it's the most delicious kind
It's
of
really
butter.
good. Mhm.
It's really good. And she cuts it with this rosemary infused apricot. It's delightful.
And so the general idea is a sip of wine, a bite of the cheese pairing, and then another sip of wine.
Wine, cheese, wine. Exactly.
And that honey note is coming out in this Roussanne already. We
Mhm.
bottled it in January.
And it was not.
Right.
Remember?
Zero.
Right. When I'd
was
say 4
quiet.
months ago,
Zero.
this thing was like, well,
Little
it'll be
close.
along. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's already starting to come out. It's going to be really great in another 6 months or so. And that little honey note with this, what do you call it? Rosemary infused apricot is awesome, man.
Yeah. Incredibly
Crazy.
delicious.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to the 2022 Claudia Cuvee Marsanne. So pour a splash in your glasses. I am going to try out a new analogy. Bear with me. We're gonna workshop.
Oh,
if
wait a
this is
minute,
good
wait
or
a minute.
not. Oh,
Back
oh
up,
no.
back up, Ivy. We have
Uh-oh.
a word of wisdom for Model Citizen.
Oh no.
This one is from approximately 1600 from Galileo Galilei.
Of course.
Yep.
Wine is sunlight held together by water.
I mean, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Isn't that gorgeous? I
That's
love it.
lovely. Yes.
Very true. All right, we can move ahead now.
You want a
Claudia
little-
Cuvee.
Would you like a little, Bob?
I would, thank you.
So the analogy that we're going to try out together, when Molly was talking about this multiple harvest thing, going into that one block and harvesting it on different days, that's something that she also applies to some of our other wines, including the Claudia Cuvee Marsanne. And when she was saying, you know, that's not a typical practice, because it would be, here's the analogy that we're going to try. It would be like, I'm cooking a steak. You want it rare, you want it well done. I cannot do that at once. I'm going to say no, except because we're here, we'll
Mhm.
cut it in half and deal with how annoying that request is.
There you go. I like it.
Medium. It's a medium analogy. We're going to work
I
on
said
it.
medium rare.
Touche. Touche. So, Claudia Cuvee. This is our Marsanne, again, 2022 vintage. And we're going to move on to the Ragged Point cheese pairing. And this wine is named after
My mother, Claudia.
Bob's mother, my grandmother. And this, at this point, I think this is a real thing. But you know how you have memories from childhood and at some point you're like, did I make that up? I'm not sure. This feels a bit like one of those. But every day my grandparents, they would kick back. They would call it kicking back. And it was the point in the day when they would pour themselves a beverage and start to wind down. And the beverage, if I recall, was either brown liquor or alternatively white wine. And so
Good choices.
exactly, agree. So when we started making white wine, this was in 2008, was the first vintage for us on whites. We had a blend of all 4 of the white grape varieties that we grew at the time. Marsanne being about 60% of that 2008 original Claudia Cuvee blend. And we thought, grandma likes white wine, grandma gets dibs on our first white. And so as this has evolved away from really being about the blend and being about the Marsanne, we have kept that name Claudia Cuvee in her honor.
Mhm.
This pairing is
Yes.
another awesome one, by the way.
Emily,
I hope you guys have it out there.
Our tasting room manager, Emily, is really talented. And on these cheeses, I know for folks who weren't able to get them, let us know and we can connect you with Michelle at Stepladder. She's a friend and they're really lovely. And it's something going into the holidays that would be fun to have around. So a little Marsanne.
Yeah, so this one's fun. I think Marsanne's a really interesting grape because I feel like if you don't treat it right, it can just be kind of blah. Like you don't find a lot of 100% Marsannes out there because a lot of people make it and it's just not that interesting. But I think the fruit that we grow here is a little different in that regard. And the style that we make it in just makes Marsanne be a standout, which it's just so interesting because people hardly ever have 100% Marsannes. So one thing that we kind of started doing with this wine is usually picking it 3 different times. So this one I do a really early pick. We bring in all the fruit and we foot stomp it, kind of like I Love Lucy style. And then we leave it on its skins overnight. And so that's going to be when the sugar's lowest and the acid is highest. So it's going to create our lowest alcohol wine, but the hope is with that skin contact that we release a lot of those aromas and flavors that sometimes can be difficult to release if you're just doing a direct press with early grapes. So if you guys, I'm sure are aware with red wines, we destem, you saw our cool process, and then we pump it over, we punch it down, we're extracting, we spend a lot of time on those skins, getting the color, flavor, tannins, aromas out. Where white wine, we bring in this fruit and you just put it in a press and press it, and we just ferment the juice completely separately from the skins. But again, we know as winemakers that there's a lot of good stuff in those skins. And we're not looking to make an orange wine where we actually ferment the white on the skins. So instead, trying to find a way to bring some of those aromas and flavors in, we found through foot stomping early and getting, about a 24-hour skin contact prior to pressing. And then we do a medium ripeness pick, and then we do a later ripeness pick. Keep all of those separate for over a year, and then bring them together for blending trials. So this saw that same process, really similar. The vinification, so the way I make the wine, all barrel fermented, The way that we age the wine is also a mix of almost similar percent, with 62% French oak, 12% new. Again, that just being one new barrel out of the whole lot. And then 38% neutral Hungarian oak. Shouldn't have any flavor impact there.
As Molly's talking about oak, I love talking about these whites in relation to white wine with oak. For a lot of us, the idea of an oaked white is we're either really excited or really not. And I think the age of the barrels is missing in that conversation most of the time. And it's a really important factor. So when Molly says it's all barrel aged, but only 12% of that is new, that's a big deal and it makes a huge difference. And because I love an analogy,
Cool.
This one makes sense though. This one is solid. This is tried and true.
We'll
If
see.
any of you, hey man, I stole this from someone legit. I can't remember who, but I did. It's good. So tea. I don't drink coffee, which by the way, I've never drank coffee in my life. And my father, with whom I've worked every day for over a decade, about once a quarter is like, you don't drink coffee? I'm like, Dad,
He remembers the important
Who
stuff.
doesn't
We-
drink coffee, for God's sake?
we've been over this hundreds of times.
It just seems an
Anyway.
impossibility, really. Yeah.
I mean, I guess.
It's like
I
not eating
promise it's
chocolate.
not.
Same
I
thing.
promise. So I will have tea. And when you're brewing tea, you've got the tea bag, the hot water. When you brew that first cup of tea, you're going to get, I don't know, 70% of the tea flavor out, right? And then you can brew a second cup. You can use that same tea bag. You can pour more hot water in there. You're going to get some tea flavor, but it's going to be way diluted, way less intense. And by the third fill, by the third use of that tea bag, there's no flavor left. It's just hot water and it's embarrassing at that point. And barrels are very similar. A new barrel, the first time you use a new barrel, it's going to impart the most in terms of influence on the aromatics. Once used barrel imparts a little bit, but way less. And a neutral barrel is often, we think of the third time it's filled and beyond, we think of that as neutral, and it's really a vessel. And so it's not going to impart any of the oakiness of an oaked white, but there are some benefits and some differences between aging in a neutral vessel like neutral oak compared to stainless steel, which is also neutral. Why do we do barrels instead of stainless steel?
Great question.
It's also important.
So I kind of think of barrels, even when we're talking about neutral oak, what they bring to the table. So we're talking about a 60-gallon. We also have larger puncheons, but for whites, we do mostly 60-gallon barrels. Our puncheons are 2 times the size of that. So just like a really big barrel. But your lees is all the sediment that settles out after fermentation. And when we're in a round vessel, it kind of comes up on the edges. And that wine is in contact with the lees a lot. And those lees over time, you have dead yeast cells in there. They go through autolysis, they pretty much die. And as they release polysaccharides, which is kind of that sweetness in your mouth. It kind of creates that like richness on your palate, that it gives you the sensation of weight without it coming from sugar and alcohol. So that's one thing. The other thing is that wood is porous. So totally different from a stainless steel vessel that you're just getting 0 oxygen transfer. Wood is porous. So we do have some micro-oxygenation that's working its way through there. And over time, that little bit of oxygen will kind of change the wine in a good way, as long as it's managed properly.
And I should point out, Molly did a slam dunk on these 2 wines. They're
Yeah.
freaking awesome.
Yeah, this whole lineup is insane. We're really
It's
excited about
crazy. So I'm going to quote some scores here.
it. Go for it.
Claudia Cuvee Marsanne, Jeb Dunnick, who is, at least in my mind, the top Rhone wine critic in the world, 93 points. That ain't bad for a white wine. The Model Citizen, he tasted these in May, by the way. He gave the Model Citizen 92, which is a travesty, if I say so myself. Of course, 3 months or whatever it is made a huge
This is going on
difference.
YouTube. Jeb,
Uh-oh.
I'll give him a benefit of the doubt. It was pretty close back in May. If you were to taste that today, we're looking at 94 plus.
100.
I'm going to say,
It's
I'm
100.
saying that.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have a quote for this. Should I do that now or later?
Oh, please, no.
Well, now's the time.
All right, I'm mixing my
Hanging on the
quotes
edge
up.
of our seats.
A lot of these quotes are sort of inspiring and uplifting, and some of them are kind of humorous.
Okay.
This one's humorous.
Okay.
This is from a guy named Mitch Hedberg.
Oh, no.
I had to Google him to figure out who he was. He was a
Fascinating.
1990s comedian.
He was.
Yeah. So this is a quote. I saw this wino. He was eating grapes. I was like, dude, you have to wait.
This is Bob's
Not bad, huh?
stand-up career. My mom is having a little laugh attack out of frame over there.
I need to get her a glass of
I love that.
Cuvee
This is
back.
great.
I
This is
know.
great.
You need some wine.
That guy's got a sense of humor.
So let's get into some reds. And we're about halfway through. We've got about another 30 minutes with you all, and we want to respect your time and your evening. So let's get a little 2021 Sun Worshipper in glasses. We are moving from, obviously from white to red, but we're also moving from one pretty obscure grape, Marsanne, to another relatively obscure grape, Mourvedre.
Mhm.
All right.
All right.
So I want to say a few words about this picture you're looking at.
Yes.
Let me pass this over to you guys. All right. So we're looking at another view. The previous view was virtually, if you were about where the G is in Grenache, maybe a little higher in the air, looking back in this direction. That's where you have been looking. This is where you first enter our vineyard. And those of you that have seen our logo, it should be on some piece of material or label or whatever that you have
Yeah,
handy.
the two hills.
It's this
You can't
picture.
see this.
This picture was taken at probably about the summer solstice, I'm going to say, because you're looking, the direction you're looking here is southeast, and it's at sunrise, so you can see the sun is just peeking up over the mountains, coming up in the east, and it's actually lighting up a little bit those north-facing slopes, like where the Syrah that points to the right, that's due north right there, and you can see it's got a bit of light on it. If you wait 6 months for the winter solstice, the sun will swing around to the south, and you see the two hills there, and then that little clump of trees behind it. The sun would be there if you were on this particular site at the winter solstice. So that's our logo. Kind
It
of
is.
cool, huh?
The
Isn't that
two
cool?
hills with the sun rising.
Yeah.
It's, I'll have you know, we're sitting in front of our map also. Cardinal directions mean nothing to me. So Bob is describing very thoughtfully and accurately how it works. And I'm like, no. Anyway, he is correct.
You can also see the previous slide was taken in that winter time, and everything was green. It was sort of
Yeah.
an Ireland look. This is closer to harvest right here, and you can see how brown the hillsides are. The only
They're
thing
golden.
that's right.
California.
Yeah.
California's golden. Gotcha.
Mhm.
The only thing that's green are the grapes and the oak trees, which there are a lot right there. You can see a beautiful thread of oak trees reaching in amongst our blocks.
So on Sun Worshipper, this is sort of like that Model Citizen Roussanne, something that was in front of us the whole time, but we were pretty slow on the uptake to actually embrace Mourvedre as something beyond a blending grape. You know, one of our signatures and one of the wines that many folks here in Paso do really well is just called a GSM. Classic Rhone blend from southern France, a combination of Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre. We, in the spring, do release our GSM, which many of you know very well. It's a beautiful wine. There's a reason that's a classic combo. And going into it, you know, we bought raw land 21 years ago, and we knew we wanted to make GSM, so we knew we needed to plant some M. And we were just in the mindset of Mourvedre is for blending. That's what it's for. That's why we planted it. And over the years of farming, we really came to understand how good at it Paso Robles is, and how well suited Mourvedre is to Alta Colina Vineyard. And I'm going to say about 2015, maybe 2013. Ivy might remember, I don't know, when we started doing Sun Worshipper. But we were, 8 vintages in or 7 vintages in at that point before we said, wait a minute. Not only is this great in the background of our GSM, it is something that deserves to be showcased and really highlighted and to be a grape that drives a wine. And so Sun Worshipper is always focused around Mourvedre. And how that came together, we're going to let Molly explain. We're incredibly excited about this wine. Go nuts.
Yeah, and if you have 2 glasses, we have our library offering is the 2016 Sun Worshipper. So if you have the possibility to taste them side by side, it's pretty cool to see 5 years of age on this wine. And the kind of one of the main differences, well, Bob was the winemaker in 2016, so he's going to get into that one a little bit more. I didn't come on until the 2020 vintage. But trying the wines here, and, you know, like Maggie said, we've been friends for a long time. We've known each other. I was familiar with the wines, but when I went to start blending the 2018, I was trying to really understand the program. And so we sat down and we pulled the last 3 vintages of every single wine, and we just sat down and tried them. And I was trying to kind of like get the puzzle started in my head as to like, what are the characteristics I'm looking for in each of these wines? So most of our wines are very terroir driven. Like our Toasted Slope comes from these 2 blocks. Our Old 900 Syrah comes from this one block. GSM and Sun Worshipper were more of a mix. So we had GSM, and Sun Worshipper was kind of an MSG, if you will. And so we kind of were talking, and the more I tried our Mourvedre, I just fell in love with it and wanted to continue highlighting that. So every year I kind of push it to be a little bit more Mourvedre. So I actually dropped the Grenache out of this blend. So it's always been Mourvedre forward, but now it's Mourvedre with a little bit of Syrah, and kind of each year that percent just like scooches up a little bit more as the Syrah comes down. So we're just highlighting our beautiful fruit here. Mourvedre is really interesting. Sun Worshipper, the vines are absolutely gorgeous, and the canes shoot straight up in the air. It's like they're worshiping the sun. Mourvedre is also really interesting because it can be some of the first things to go into bloom, but then it's always going to be the last thing we harvest. So it literally wants to stay worshiping the sun as long as it can. So it's a great name for this wine. I'm kind of obsessed with the 21 vintage right
It's
now.
amazing.
We had a really nice
Really excited.
feature on this wine in Wine Business Monthly, which is a great industry
Yes.
magazine, and just smelling it again, like the nose, to me, it's always hard when someone says like, what is this wine good, or what makes a good wine? What makes a great wine? And for me, I want to put my nose in it and get complex flavors. So I want to have layers of flavors or aromas, pardon me, that are kind of popping through. So I want to put my nose in it. And like right now, I'm like, oh, there's black cherry. Oh, there's fig jam. Oh, we've got like all the shrub. I call it Paso Garrigue. So it's like all the little shrubs, the native shrubs that grow here, like manzanita and sagebrush. You know, all of these things are coming through. And it's like, I don't even need to taste the wine at first. I just want to keep smelling it. And to me, grapes like Grenache and Mourvedre love to do that. And this is not oak aromas. So it's a difference from when you put your nose in a glass and you're thinking all baking spices, cocoa, mocha, espresso. Like it is complex and layered, but most of those are kind of from the oak marinade as opposed from the natural grape aromas. So to me, this is just really awesome. I get a lot of that graphite, black cherry, the bay laurel. And it's almost like, even when you taste this, it's like I'm walking the roads. Like I get that kind of dusty earth. Sometimes it even goes like wet clay, and it just has this like really, I don't know, cool flavors. I get black cherry, and then on the palate you get like Luxardo cherries, and I don't know, it's a really fun wine, and I think it's tasting really, really good right now.
I'm really excited to have the 2 vintages next to each other. So, you know, we're sipping on the 2021 right now, and that breakdown, it is 68% Mourvedre, 32% Syrah. And then the 2016 vintage, we're never going to remember. So if you're ever in doubt, look on the back label and the information is there. The 2016 is 67% Mourvedre. The 2021 is 68% Mourvedre. However, this older vintage, 67 Mourvedre, 20% Syrah, 13% Grenache. So it is an upside down GSM, but really with a focus on the Mourvedre. And when we get into it in a second, it's not only the age on it, but you know, it's two different winemakers' interpretation of Mourvedre off of our property. And that's been one of the coolest things for me as a not a winemaker, has been the, I don't know, sort of the building upon what already was happening really successfully. And, you know, the vineyard is getting older. Every year we understand it better. Bob has way gone down the rabbit hole of regenerative farming. If you ever want to talk about that, he's your guy. Soil microbiome, it's a whole thing. He just bought a microscope, like we're in it. So when you're ready, or if you're able to do the side by side, let's get into that 2016.
So before we do,
Oh,
this 21 is freaking awesome.
yeah.
You
It's
nail that.
delicious.
It is. I haven't really just sit down and paid attention to it for a while, but
That's
holy Toledo.
Really exciting.
It is so good.
Nice.
I knew it was good because I work the tasting rooms on Saturday, so I get to talk to people, and people love this damn wine, and they buy it, which is really warming to my heart. But I hadn't really just sit down and consciously focused on it. So that's off, Molly.
Well, thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
good work.
And I'm going to come back because we have a few other 21s, but I want to keep it moving. I want to come back and say a few things on the 21 vintage, but we'll catch up to that. You guys we're tasting / talking about like 4 different vintages tonight, and they're not all subsequent. But I want to make sure you get to spotlight that 2016, and then we'll come back to some details.
Well, first of all,
And we're
94
comparing.
points, Editor's Choice Wine Enthusiast Magazine, 2021 Sun Worshipper. Not bad, not bad. And I have a quote as well.
This is new.
Yeah,
The quotes are new this
I'm
time.
going with Victor Hugo.
Hmm.
I like Victor Hugo. Wine is life. It is the union of the earth with the sun. It is the essence of time captured in a bottle.
That's lovely.
Mourvedre, earth. Yeah, that fits.
And for our members of
The pairing.
Oh, Lynn is just
Oh.
raving about the pairing over there.
Lynn is raving about the pairing. Also, if at some point you see us doing this, there's one fly in this room
Yeah,
that's really,
loves these pairings.
Mhm.
really excited about what's going on here.
Yeah, and
Uh,
Emily did this Paso Vino cheese, the sun-dried tomato pesto that
please,
goes on
yeah.
top of this. The recipe, I believe, was sent out. It is
Yep.
unbelievable, super simple to make, and it makes this wine. I didn't think you
Yes.
could make the wine that much better with
Yeah.
food, but it is like
Yeah,
It's
amazing.
delicious.
I'm sure you guys have been watching me snarf these things down. They're
Yeah.
really good.
And that recipe for the sun-dried tomato pesto, truly take a look, even if you're not enjoying it right now. It's off the chain delicious, and it is genuinely like, put some stuff in a food processor and you're gonna look like you're really good at food, and it tastes great. So
All right, 2016. Sun
2016.
Worshiper. So
What was
20,
happening in
well,
2016?
2016 was half a lifetime ago.
Yeah,
so
truly.
I had to go back and research.
I'm glad you did, because
Oh, wait
I
a
remember
second.
nothing.
Hold on, Henry. Here, take a look at this picture. You see that little itty bitty lady standing on top of a 1.5 ton fermenter with
Took me a minute to
a
figure out
punch
what-
down tool? That is Ivy Reynolds,
In 2016.
our very famous manager of the club and membership that hopefully all of you know really well. Yeah,
Mhm.
Ivy is like what's the word I'm looking for? She can
Jack of all
she can play
trades.
offense and defense. She's right in there.
Yeah.
She'd spent
Thanks, Bob.
2 harvests with us in the cellar and excelled, and has come back and moved over onto the marketing side and just blown it out.
High five, Ivy.
Yeah, totally.
Great work.
Yeah. So the wine you're about to drink was punched down by Ivy,
Mhm.
probably many, many times, I'm gonna
Mhm.
guess.
That photo in the top right is me pretending to make wine. I contribute if it's a task like that where they're like, Maggie, rake this, I'm in.
All right.
But if it's know what you're doing, I'm not the one. And then Daniel Martinez, our vineyard manager of 7 years,
Mm.
maybe 8 now.
Maybe 8, yeah. Look how young he
is
is right there. He's just a kid. Yeah.
is in that photo down
Looks like
below.
40. He just always looks amazing.
Yeah, he is very young. Young crazy.
And that photo was taken in probably late February, I'm guessing. We were pruning. And our friend Heather, who's a photographer, came and took photos. And Daniel is incredibly gifted at avoiding a camera. And she was like, nope, you have to stand in front of me and pose with the thing. And he hated it. And the photo's great.
That's great.
Yeah, worth
All
it.
right, 2016. It was the first year after 4 terrible drought years.
Oh, duh.
It wasn't a great year.
Wait, wasn't it still in the drought?
No, we were still in drought.
Well, it came out. We were up to
And-
13 inches of rain that year. That's at the airport. That's the only
Yeah.
data I could find. So we probably got 16 or something, which is kind of normal. but it was a crappy year. It was following a bunch of 6-inch, 7-inch.
In terms of
Oh,
rain, it was
years.
crappy.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's what I meant. It was early also, like a very early bud break. And the harvest was pretty early. We picked the Mourvedre for this was picked in September the 26th, which is often a month later than that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
That's really early.
Yeah. And we had a big June heat spike that I could also find in the second half of June was like 103 degrees sort of situation, which is unusual. Normally that comes in August, September.
Or July, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Not in October.
Anyhow,
Mhm.
that's
It was a
Mhm.
really great growing season too, though. I think it was one of those kind of stereotypical California vintages. Because we were at that right time of drought. We really hadn't had good rainfall since 2011, and then the drought fully broke in 2017.
mhm.
And so we were kind of at that time where that, that 5 years of drought, it's like everything's stressed just the right amount.
Mhm.
2015 was a rough vintage for us because of all that shatter
Mhm.
everybody experienced from that really cool time during bloom. So I think when 2016 came around, we were all really excited.
Mhm.
And to me, I just remember it as a really great vintage. And I think it's showing
Yeah.
This is tasting great.
in
Yeah.
this wine. And we tried, I believe we had the 2016. Well, we've tried the whole lineup of 16s, and each one that we've tried was like, this is awesome. So I know you have a lot of new people out there, but if any of you guys have some Alta Colina wines in your cellar, we talked about even sending out an email to be like, we've tried the 16s, like pull them out. Like I think all of us, the worst feeling is when you've held on to a bottle of wine too long and then you pull it out of your fridge and you're just so bummed. But I think the 16s are just at a really beautiful spot right now where they're not too far gone by any means, that they have that right amount of age on them. Oh, honey, you want to get in here?
The
don't
dog
you?
wants to say hi, but
Honey's the dog. Yeah.
she can't sit on the bench. So,
So, I'll ask your opinion in a minute, Molly, but just tasting this wine,
I finished mine.
it is lovely.
Give you a little more?
Yeah.
You talk about sort of black cherry and sort of dust or something
Yeah.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
It is just gorgeous. Hi, honey. You step up here a little bit more, you can be on.
There's her little snoot. There's her little snoot.
Honey. Yeah.
It's because she knows this pairing is cheese and honey.
So anyway, I'm very proud of
Accurate.
this wine. This is one I happened to stumble into a few years ago. I'm quite pleased with it.
And we do have about 5 cases available for the release. So members, make sure you let Ivy know what you would like. I believe you can also add that on to shipments, which you're able to log in now to do that. So as you're tasting these, if you want to tweak your shipment and add on as we go, that's a great idea. You can check in with Ivy in the chat if you need a link or anything. And for folks who are not members yet, see that? Sales?
Way to go.
Guys, we're good at it.
Get in there.
But this is also available. So members get first dibs. But if you're loving this wine and you aren't currently a member, we would love to make sure that you can grab some to enjoy at home. So
The wine is big on the palate, and it has the tannins are just soft and gentle.
Yeah.
And it's got a pretty good finish, even with the pairing. It's still hanging in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Mourvedre is a funny grape because it kind of has moderate color, but it actually has really low natural tannins. So that's a lot of times why really tannic grapes like Grenache can blend really well with Mourvedre. Or Syrah brings more color and more tannin to the field. What we've found over the years with trialing everything is that now we do about a 15% whole cluster fermentations, because there's a lot of tannins in the skins and the seeds, but there's also a lot of tannins in those stems. So bringing those in allows us to kind of leave the fermenter with a more balanced wine. And I think it also helps build on kind of those earthy flavors we're
Yeah.
getting.
So we have about 10 minutes left with you.
Toasted.
So
And-
we can keep going. Let's just keep rolling.
No one has anything to do.
Don't tell my husband.
What's the rush? That's good.
So we are going to jump from 2016. We're going to fast forward again back to 2021. And we are going to get into some Toasted Slope Syrah. So this, for folks who know our wines well, or folks who don't know our wines well, if you were to walk into our tasting room and say, I've never been to Paso and I know nothing about Alta Colina, there's a pretty good chance that this is the wine that I would pour for you. The one that come to my mind are GSM or Toasted Slope Syrah. I think stylistically, this really speaks to Paso Robles, right? We're a warm climate we're able to get things ripe. And when I say that, I mean not just ripe, but in a balanced way. And so big expressions of these grapes, and two very different approaches in the cellar. So these are going to be really fun to taste. Toasted Slope now, and we'll finish up with Keystone in a minute.
Quote,
Yeah.
how before you go on a quote. That's Molly right there, in case you guys hadn't noticed
6
that.
months pregnant.
Oh,
Pumping
the
over.
picture doesn't show it. Yeah.
Thank God.
All right, this is from Louis Pasteur. He's the guy that discovered yeast, in case you're wondering. About 1860 or 70, I'm going to guess.
Give or
Quote,
take.
a bottle of wine contains more philosophy than all the books in the world.
That's nice.
Is that good?
Ew,
I like
Bob
that.
How do
with
you
the
feel about that?
quotes.
Because you're really into books.
I am. But I don't have the
That's
whole,
fun.
I don't have all the philosophy books.
Bob's
Okay.
a textbook guy.
I'm going to go with this. This is a lot of philosophy right there.
So 2021 Toasted Slope Syrah. From our very first vintage, we knew we were going to make at least one great Syrah, and our vineyard gifted us with two. In the spring, we release our Old 900, which Molly referenced earlier. That is from a single block, a very specific corner of the vineyard. And Toasted Slope is a combination of blocks on the hillside, sort of smack in the middle of the vineyard. And it's a southwest facing slope. So again, cardinal directions mean nothing to me. What does mean something to me is on Toasted Slope, I will get sunburnt in about 6 minutes. And on Old 900, it takes like 15.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really exposed. It's a site that, you know, we knew buying this piece of land that southwest face was going to be one that was a pretty intense growing climate. And so we planted clones of Syrah that we knew would do well in that circumstance.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, the main reason why we talk about aspects, so which direction these rows are facing, is because we're in the northern hemisphere, and so the sun is in the southern part of the sky for us, and that's in California forever. People only looked at south-facing hills to plant. Like the early days of planting, it said you always looked for the south-facing slopes. As our beautiful country has gotten a little warmer, people now tend to grow reds on north-facing slopes. But in the early 2000s, the 90s, 70s, 80s, 90s, people were doing reds on south-facing slopes and whites on north-facing slopes. So it's kind of cool to be able to try Syrah on both south and north facing. And Syrah to me is one of the most versatile grapes out there, which is why I love it so much. You could take the same clone of Syrah and grow it on a south facing versus a north facing slope and get completely different characteristics. But that same Syrah clone could grow in Paso at really hot, or you could grow it on the coast where it's really cold, and you're going to get completely different expressions from the grape. So that's one thing that makes Syrah so awesome. And again, this is one of those wines where I just want to keep smelling it. To me, I've gone more in like that blackberry cobbler, like a lullaberry jam, baking spices. But it's just like deep, dark, rich. But then when you drink it, it's not just like super viscous and overpowering in your mouth. There's this roundness, this plushness, and just this elegance that carries through. And we get a lot of that, like the violets coming out, which I think comes from one of our particular clones in the Toasted Slope block.
And something that I think Alta Colina Vineyard is really good at is exactly speaking to what Molly just said, where we're in Paso Robles and we're in Paso Robles for a reason. We like the sunshine. We want our fruit to be ripe in a balanced, beautiful way. And Alta Colina Vineyard is really good at sort of walking up to the line of ripeness and checking itself. It doesn't tend to be too much and go over to, you know, there's richness. I love that word plush, but that was the fly, excuse me. This fly is really, it's really making itself known. And it's not over the top. It's not too much. There's acidity. This is a grounded wine. It's going to age really beautifully, but it has that lushness and sort of depth and intensity that I think when Paso is on the best, my favorite reds from Paso Robles, this is one of the things that I love so much about them. You know, it's got fruit to drink young, or if you want to wait 8 years, 10 years, you have the option.
Exactly. I think this is a vineyard speaking right here. You know, you push, I mean, I shouldn't say Molly pushed hard to extract every ounce from those berries. And we end up with this gorgeous
Beautiful.
wine. It's not over the top at all. It's powerful and strong, but
Yep. It's,
not over the top.
it's big, but
gorgeous.
it's pretty,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes some of those really big wines, for me, I can't even drink more than a glass, where this is something you can enjoy with food.
Mhm.
It's not,
Mhm.
it's not going to just overpower anything else.
Yeah.
And this strawberry candied bacon
Yeah, I was gonna say.
with the marinated fromage
Yeah.
blanc is really killer.
Let's just get some bacon and pair this with
Yeah.
toasted slope.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that's gonna
What
work.
could go wrong?
The other thing I should point out, Wine Enthusiast Magazine, Cellar Selection,
Uh-huh. That's
95 points.
I mean, that feels right.
It's not right at all. Shit, it's much bigger than that. It'll be 98. But,
I mean, I agree.
and Dunnett gave it 94. I don't know, he's kind of a hard grader. I don't know what his problem is. Anyhow, this is a seriously good wine. Yeah. You're gonna love this one.
Ah,
All
We have
right.
some
Let's move on to
questions.
the
Keystone.
I know you want to get a question in there.
I have one question. There's a few folks asking about how Old 900 and Toasted Slope are tasting in this vintage compared to vintages past. Can you speak on that?
The 2021 Old 900 versus Toasted Slope.
Yep.
Okay.
And vintages, right? Different vintages. Yeah. So I think, let's see. I can give you what I was a part of. So when I came on in 2020, Bob had not blended any of the 18s and 19s. So I've had I blended 18s, 19s, and then I've made 20s on. 18 was a real powerhouse of a vintage. 19 was a much softer, restrained vintage. 20 came in as a powerhouse. I think probably some of the biggest wines we ever saw at Alta
So
Colina.
far, yeah.
And then 21 came in just a hair below 20 as far as power was concerned. So these are still really big wines, but to me, it's that term elegance really describes 21. 21 was the best vintage of my career, I believe. It was like a winemaker's vintage. Again, we had that right amount of drought because the last year we had good rain was 2017. So, we were going on that 4 or 5 year mark. The grapes were stressed just the right amount, but we had nothing crazy. There was no big fires in the state. There was no heat dome. There was no super cool weather causing other issues. It was just kind of like perfection. Like it handed us the most beautiful vintage, a little bit softer, but again, to me, it's just exudes the elegance of it all. I think that the Toasted Slope, immediately coming out the bat, I think the Toasted Slope might have been a little more approachable than the Old 900. At first, the Old 900 was really like kind of big and grippy, kind of the masculine, feminine versions of the Syrah. But now that they've each had some time in bottle, I think they've like
It's the other way around.
rounded out. Yeah. And now I think Toasted Slope is kind of stepping up there as like our big Syrah at the moment.
And I do know it is 6:30. So if you have to get on with your evenings, we understand this will be on YouTube.
We'll get
All
the
those views
Keystone.
we get.
Right.
But if you're able to stick around, I'm going to say another 8 minutes.
We're gonna keep rolling. We're gonna be here.
I mean,
at
Bob's hanging out all night. So anyone who wants to stay,
We're in no hurry.
if you're in for the night, Bob's going to hang out.
Molly has kids to take care of, but I'll be
My
here.
husband just has to be up at 2 o'clock for picking tonight, and we just have our biggest day processing. But you know what? If I show up tomorrow morning and Bob's still here with you guys,
Perfect.
I'll just be out weighing the fruit in the morning. I don't even,
Perfect.
I might stretch out
No
on the couch.
forklift. No
Yeah.
forklift.
All right. we're on to
2021 Keystone.
Keystone.
This wine has had a journey with us, I would say. Our first vintage was 2007. So again, we bought this raw piece of land 21 years ago, developed it from scratch, and we've really been getting to know it ever since. And Keystone, the first vintage on this Syrah was in 2008. That was our second vintage of reds. One thing to note is that
There's no cost half as
2007,
much.
we had paid our barrel bills after the 2007 vintage, and Bob thought we should just see what American oak is about because it is half the price-ish of French oak. It also is a really different thing. And so we would periodically make Keystone, and initially we were experimenting with oak and American versus French. And this has evolved into, we keep talking about with Toasted Slope and Old 900, the fact that one is from this southwest facing hillside, the Toasted Slope, Old 900s from over here on a north face, and we rarely blend the two. Keystone in the last couple of years has evolved into being that place where we experiment with not only the oak, but also basically combining those two hillsides. And so that's something that Molly can speak to. And this is very much, you know, sort of when we're talking about power, intensity, the volume is all the way up on this, I would say.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, when they think about oak, they think about it as like their spice cabinet and they can, you know, season everything. Oak is really a marinade. Like at my previous job, we used to do a barrel experiment where we had larger lots, but we would take one lot of Cabernet and divide it up into 26 different types of oak, 2 barrels each. So the exact same lot, we'd put it in old barrels, and then we would do 2 each of 26 brand new barrels, mostly French. We would do same cooper, different toasts, same cooper, different ways of bending the staves using fire versus steam. We would do American and French. And like to really be able to go through, once a year, we would taste everything blind. So we would do it in-house. We would invite all of the coopers, so all the barrel reps in to try everything, and local winemakers. And everything was just labeled A to Z. And so you just got to try it and really see how much of an impact oak has on the wine. And it's quite amazing. And so I kind of think about if oak is like the marinade or the makeup job, it's like the American oak is like the Tammy Faye Baker, you know, it's like, I'm here and it's really in your face. And so with 100% new American oak, it is like, you can taste it. Let's just put it that way. You know, there's been many times where we were writing tasting notes, and I think we started off with like a well-mixed old fashioned. This wine is, you know, you're always going to get that American oak, which is going to be coconut and vanilla. This, I think we do get some of that blueberry compote, that allspice coming through. But where this used to be brand new puncheons every single year, one from each of the blocks. So Toasted Slope is made up of 2 blocks, 2 different clones, and then Old 900 is one. As Maggie was saying, that those tea bags, if you had an American oak tea bag, it would last probably about 10 cups. So your 3-cup rule is out the window with American oak.
It's American.
We do everything strong, big. So what I've found is like, because American oak gives so much, like you can smell and taste, like there is a lot of oak on this wine. These barrels have already been filled before. So these are second fill American oak. And what we'll be doing with this program is it will always be a blend of all 3 of our blocks of Syrah. It will always be an American oak. We'll probably just turn it into maybe buying 1 new American puncheon every few years, as opposed to 3 new ones every year for the program.
She's a lightweight.
Bob's shaking his head at me.
But
And-
I would suggest that in life there are 3 great flavors:
Coffee.
chocolate, coffee, and Syrah and American oak.
Oh,
And this combines 2 of them. If you've tried that trusty cheese pairing, my goodness, it's called what do you call it?
Cajeta.
Cajeta. It's like dissolved
Yeah, it's like dulce
chocolate,
de
little
leche.
sugar mixed in
moonstone
there.
cheese with the coffee cajeta.
Oh,
Yeah.
my goodness.
So again, the cajeta is something you can do. We have that recipe for you, and it's insanely good. And
Yeah.
I'm not really a sweets
Yeah.
person or a coffee person.
And I have a quote for this one also.
All right, our final quote. What is it?
This is one of my, it's not your final.
He didn't say it was
Oh.
Yeah, I was like, whoa,
Oh.
Maggie, come on.
Okay, Bob is going to be here all night apparently.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorites, actually. I think you'll enjoy this one. This is from Dorothy Parker,
Oh, I love her.
who was sort of a 40s, 50s sort of person in New
Witty,
York.
super smart,
Yeah.
wordsmith.
All right, well, this fits. Quote, "I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy."
It's amazing. It's so good. This
gotta live
is-
to laugh at
right?
that one.
The Clancys know it. Pat Clancy knows it. Wait, I also have a Dorothy Parker quotation that has nothing to do with wine and is not appropriate, that I love so much. So there's a story
Here we
about
go.
Dorothy
Here we go.
Parker
All right.
where she was at some event in New York at some point, and someone was like, "Okay, lady, like you're good at words. Use horticulture in a sentence." which is also like not a hard word, but she said, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You can lead a horticulture, but you can't make her think.
Oh my God, yes.
Dorothy Parker.
That's awesome.
Well, that's a good one.
Amazing, I
That's a good one.
know.
Well, you know that I shouldn't say this. I think I'll stop right there.
Perfect.
I was drawing it for a second there.
Follow that
I'm
instinct.
going to say something about American oak, but I'm going to bite it.
We're gonna follow that instinct. And the reason for the name on this wine, the names of our wines are typically vineyard references. So things like Model Citizen being, the Roussanne is a really well-behaved
Huh.
block in terms of the plants. Sun Worshipper, or that Mourvedre needing that super long growing season. Toasted Slope is our reference to that hillside. We then have 4 wines, one for each of my grandparents. So Old 900 is one of those. Keystone is a nod to the barrels. So that first vintage in 2008, Bob bought an American oak barrel from Pennsylvania, which is the Keystone State. So that is where that comes from, and it's a nod to.
And also
those
we're
barrel
still
choices.
using those barrels.
Yes,
They still got a little punch in them.
Are the heaviest barrels. Like the staves are so thick. It's a 500 liters. This is like
450 actually.
a 450, right? 119 gallons are only 2 barrels
Yeah, it's
that are
weird. It's
different
only one in the
gallons.
world. Yeah.
But to try and turn these things on a rack, it is so hard. It takes like 2 of us when we have to clean these barrels. We're normal puncheons. You can kind of, we can move them ourselves. These things, 2 people, they're so heavy.
Yeah.
So I know that again, some folks sort of have to get going. But we love doing these. And again, as long as folks, we work with Master of the World, that third party who rebottles those things so beautifully for us. And as long as there's enough demand where it makes sense for all of us to do it, we would love to continue. And this is also the first moment where you can go in and add things onto your fall shipments for our members, customize those fall shipments. Again, IV is always a great resource there. Erica can help. And we'll hang out for a few minutes. We're just going to keep enjoying some wine and finishing our pairings.
Molly may run. She has kids to take care of,
No,
which is
I'm
okay.
sorry.
It's okay.
It's okay.
2 little in the middle of harvest.
Yeah.
2 and 5, easy peasy,
Mhm.
easy peasy.
Nothing going on.
Nothing going on. But we have just really, really enjoyed getting to do this with you. We really try to make membership be just a joy in your lives. And we want it to be something that you look forward to and that you can shape so that you're enjoying the wines that you love the most. And you'll have a week to customize that stuff. So be sure to get that done sort of in a week from now. You'll hit credit cards. We'll be shipping at the end of the month. And in terms of add-ons, we do have some great stuff available.
We highly encourage that, by the way.
We do. We do. So some of those spring releases are available to add on. That's our Old 900, our GSM. There are also some really cool wines like the Carbonic Grenache, which is a polarizing wine. You either love it or it's not for you, which is perfectly allowed. And it's a really wonderful fall, basically chilled red. And so as you're thinking about Thanksgiving meals, the Carbonic can hang with a lot of really fun stuff going into this season. We also have about 6 cases of the X that is still hanging out. So that's our 2020 reserve, very high-end, super small lot Syrah, which is members only. And then the last thing that we just have started doing, and we want to make sure that it's on your radar, is in addition to membership, which is, really our lifeblood, you all support us and take most of the wine. Some of our wines nobody else gets. It's members only. And we have a handful of wines that are really about sort of less traditional techniques or about enjoying tonight. We tasted a 2016 Sun Worshipper tonight. These core wines, everything in these spring and fall shipment releases are wines that you can enjoy sooner or you can wait. And then we make things like our rosé, that Carbonic, our Downslope Red, which is a really wonderful drink now blend that we make. And we have an option, which is a subscription version. So it's something that as a member you can add on. It's also something you could gift. And the deal with subscription, it's just like a Blue Apron subscription or a Netflix subscription where you signed up on October the 3rd, and each month on October the 3rd, they charge you and you get your Netflix. It's the same thing, but with wine. So if a subscription version is of interest to something additionally or something that someone in your life might enjoy, we'd be happy to tell you all about that.
But it's cooler because it's a subscription.
It's the subscription.
and not a subscription.
It's the AC subscription, which Molly did think of. And it's something that we're honestly quite pleased with. So high fives all around. And yeah, just thank you all so much.
So hang on a minute.
No,
You're not leaving yet.
we're not leaving yet.
So I have one more quote for the group.
Okay.
And also, before I give the quote, I just want to say thank you, guys. I really appreciate everybody jumping in here, and I hope you enjoyed the wines and if you had the cheese, I hope you enjoyed that. If you for some reason didn't get it, try it. It's
Yeah, Stepladder. They're super cool.
pretty amazing all the way through. We've been at it for 21 years now, and all the way through, the buttress, the thing that keeps this business going is our membership. It's people like you guys, and we thank you very much for
Yes,
that.
what my kids do.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know how
I was-
I don't know
like
how
it.
the Gen Zs do it.
So
Yeah.
please stay in there. I know times are hard out there, and such is life. But we're moving on now. We have a quote from Ernest Hemingway. I'm going to guess this is about 1950.
That guy knows about wine.
It might be 55.
R.I.P.
There are several in here from Hemingway. I could read several of them. I'll do two of them now that this is the first one. This is the one I didn't intend to read. It says, quote, "I drink to make other people more interesting."
That's true. That's a real thing.
Mhm.
That's terrible. Now, here's the one I was going to read to you guys. Quote, "My only regret in life is that I did not drink more wine."
Aw.
Quote.
Ernest knows.
Ernest.
Will not be
so
our regret.
Knows. It will not
so
be our
feel
regret
free to buy a bunch of Alta
to
Colina
drink
wine.
more wine.
Yeah, we love that.
No regrets. No regrets.
No regrets.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you all so much. Yeah, Bob and I will hang out for a few minutes and enjoy another sip of something. If folks want to jump off mute and say hello. Weirdly, my computer, the volume, terrible. So we're gonna get awkwardly close to the screen to hear you. But it's always a joy to see your faces, those that we've seen before, those for the first time tonight. We really appreciate you joining, loving the wines. And do get in touch, follow us on social media, say hi. It's literally like me. So when you DM us or send us a message, I'll say hello. You know how to get in touch with Ivy. And all of our emails are just Maggie at Alta Colina, Molly at Alta Colina, Bob at Alta Colina.
Yeah, and come for a visit if you can. The vineyard is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I mean, you got a glimpse of it in that drone photo, but it's really the crown jewel of the property. And it's just up the hill from where we are in the tasting room. So come see it for your own.
Yes. Yay. Happy October.
Yeah.
Happy harvest.
It's 95 degrees outside right now, so I'm gonna go turn on my air conditioning when I drive home.
It was 101 when I came down from the barn
Crazy.
this morning,
Yeah.
or this afternoon, about
Yeah.
an hour ago. Yeah.
It's crazy.
miserable.
Yeah. Do be sure if you're on Instagram or Facebook, be sure to check stories in the next couple days. While I'm not particularly contributing otherwise, while Molly and her team are doing all the work, I like to post things. So if you want a little behind the scenes, or if there's anything specific you'd like to see, you can just message us there. And
And you'll
I'll
see
do
we
our
take
best.
it all the winemaking like really seriously. We have
Very-
no fun in the South.
Very serious. Yeah.
Pretty great.
Yay. All
Okay.
right. Thanks, everybody.
I'm
Molly,
gonna duck out. I'm sorry, guys. Thank
Yeah.
you all.
high five. Hi to the kiddos. I love it.
All right.
All right. You
Pull it-
can't
Can you
get
pull
out.
that thing a little closer so we can maybe hear somebody if they're listening?
We can. All right. Thanks.
We're kind of,
It's the magic of video. We've everything that looks crazy is out of frame because we're professional. All right, we're gonna scoot this closer.
it is
Yay.
even better, more.
All right, you guys, it is so nice to see everybody. Clancy's up in Portland. It's nice that it's still light out. Cheers. We're getting in the dark down here. I love it. Yeah. If anyone wants to go off mute, you're allowed at this point. And otherwise, we'll just enjoy a little glass
Pass me
together.
a little sun worshipper there.
We
if you
have
don't
some
mind.
21 or
re-
16?
21, actually.
20.
Maggie, we have some requests for Lynn to join.
Oh, Lynn, your request, guys, your presence has been requested. I did actually drink those sips, so here we are.
I can't believe how low the volume is on this thing.
I know.
It's pretty amazing.
I know. All right, Lynn's gonna come say hello. We did, earlier we mentioned the sparkling. Molly mentioned that we had just gorged our sparkling. So ahead of harvest, things have been busy in the cellar. And this is just a little example of the Lynn's Cuvee. You notice this really unique label. There's a story there. And the reason it is called Lynn's is my mother is incredibly involved and supportive of the business and of my father starting this endeavor 21 years ago. And her one requirement was champagne. And so about 15 years in, Bob said, oh, yeah. And so for their 50th wedding anniversary, which was they celebrated in 2019, Bob in 2018 had made the first vintage of Lynn's Cuvee, which is full champagne method, so that they would have Lynn's Request available. And we just released early to you all, and we'll be shipping it out at the end of the month. The 2019 vintage, but we held on to it for 5 years. So we left it on the lees for years in sort of that true champagne style. And we released it this year in honor of their 55th wedding anniversary. So
A lot of you have boxes
Yeah.
packed in our cellar with your name on it. So I'm excited to start shipping it soon.
Gosh, I
Yes.
cannot hear a darn thing.
It's all right. Yeah. You have to talk really loud.
Are there any other questions? Did anyone have a question? You can pop it in the chat.
Bottle.
Oh, very studious.
Well, for lack of a question, I'll talk about the bottle a little bit. Many people mistake this label to be a ghost.
A ghost emoji.
And in fact, what it is a stylized Navajo wedding vase. You can see the idea here where there's 2 spouts from which each person can drink and so forth. Lynn and I grew up surrounded by the Navajo reservation. We grew up in Gallup, New Mexico, in a town that was not on the reservation, but pretty much surrounded by it. And so all of our youth was kind of steeped in sort of living in that area. And it seemed like very appropriate for a anniversary to put that on the label.
Yeah. So it's the silhouette of that wedding vase. If you just Google Navajo wedding vase, then you'll see the shape of it. And we do have an example here in the tasting room that we're able to show people.
Give me some 2016.
Well, you know,
Did we just talk that whole time on mute?
Just for a minute. It's all good now.
Nailed it. Well, don't worry about it.
We have a question about what varietal is in the Lynn's Cuvee and why
I
it might
love
have
that
changed.
question. Dad, take it away.
Well, let me just check the label. That's always a good thing to do. Yeah, this one, it depends on the year. See, we've been placing these on tirage, which means we've bottled them with the yeast inside every year for the last 6 years. And so I can't remember exactly, but this is a 2019, and it is 57% Grenache Blanc, 27% Marsanne, and 16% Viognier. The thing about sparkling wines is that the method of making them is you tend to pick the grapes at a low level of ripeness. So the actual grape flavors are not a predominant part of the actual wine that you're tasting. The most predominant part is the yeast that lived in that bottle for 5 years before we disgorged it, before we removed those yeast and then put it into its final form. So a lot of the aromas and flavors are yeasty. They're kind of sort of bread-like or brioche, those sorts of
Yeah,
flavors.
brioche is a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah, champagne is interesting, and we are breaking the rules when we call this champagne.
Yeah, you can't do that.
We're
Yeah.
not allowed. The French, they have lawyers. And champagne is so much, and this traditional method, this approach to making sparkling is so much about age and time on lees, whereas everything else we do, yeast is a vehicle, or it's sort of a way to get from A to B, but it's not the focus. And with traditional method or champagne, a lot of the focus is that sort of middle section, that time on the lees itself. The process is pretty amazing. And if you'd ever like a long-winded explanation, let me know. because it's really cool. You know, there's so many ways for us or for anyone to have something in a bottle that we call wine and we sell it to you, but the process of how it gets there
Yeah.
wildly varies. So just within the world of sparkling, there are dozens of approaches. Champagne and that traditional method being among the most complicated and time consuming.
Yeah, that bottle took 7 years to be
Yeah.
released, you
Yeah.
guys.
So we're excited to release it. And it's, you know, small production, but a special thing that we do. And you know, so much of our focus is what can we discover of the place? What does our vineyard do really well? How can we bottle these different expressions of what the vineyard can do? And both Bob and Molly share a love of experimentation and geekiness in those ways. There have been examples of things that we have made that you have never had because they never made it into the bottle because they were not good.
Enough.
Good enough. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's just part of it, which is a lot of why it's fun.
Well, I
So
have to say, we have been trying, we've tried several bottles of this just to make sure it was up
Yeah,
to
the
par.
QC team is really on the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if you get some, you'll really enjoy it. And it has wonderful bubbles.
Yeah.
It
So
does. I know someone's jumping in.
I'm just saying, this is Pat.
And Beth,
Pat and Beth. Hi, you guys.
hi.
We love you.
We
Thanks.
got
for-
a case coming.
We have a case coming.
Oh,
Brilliant.
great.
We're gonna use it for our 40th anniversary wine. Thank you so
Here.
Good time to get started.
That is really cool.
much for making.
Congratulations. Happy anniversary.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. It's been
Hope
just,
the coast is amazing.
Oh.
Is it outside your window?
pardon?
Are you guys at the beach?
We are. It's,
We close the curtains.
but we could open them and show you the
Sunset.
sunset. It's,
We're not
Awesome.
going to say no.
Wow. You're
I'm not
you're
gonna say
further north. Yeah.
yeah. It's, we'll move our camera over to the window here. Hang on.
Yay. And I do see another folk or two off of mute. Feel free to jump in with
Yeah.
any questions.
I think
So-
Carl had something he
Yeah.
wanted to say.
Good, Charlotte.
So greetings from up
Ooh,
North Michigan, where
nice.
it certainly isn't 95 degrees.
That's
And
a
we
gift.
we hauled our sailboat out of the water yesterday, so it was kind of a sad event.
Oh.
But
Oh,
autumn
gosh.
will be beautiful, and we'll carry on. As we did 6 months ago, we pulled a bottle out of the library wine out of our wine room and compared it to the distributed little bottle, and it was the sun worshiper this time, of course, and we're not noticing much difference at all, but we certainly do like it, and
Hallelujah.
yeah, it's going to be a priority to enjoy sometime in the not too distant future.
Yay.
So, and as usual, Denny and I kind of split on the white. She went for the Roussanne, I went for the Marsanne, and that's just kind of the way it is.
I love it.
Keystone's a longtime favorite of ours. Every Keystone we've bought more than a bottle of. We've really enjoyed. We have a bunch of 2016s still in our room that we haven't opened yet, and I think this one's definitely one worth adding to the collection. So we're looking forward to that, and Toasted's was I think one of the better vintages of it.
I'm
That's
so
great,
glad. And
Carl.
Carl,
Thanks.
as you open those bottles with some age on it, all of you, we love hearing from you of how things are tasting, what you enjoyed it with. Do you think it could wait a few more years? Is now the moment? And we really genuinely love
Well,
hearing from you all.
We'll try to remember to do that. Sometimes we do. I know that 2012 was a great year for the GSM, and they're all gone now. I think we're up to 17s on those. But yeah, we'll do that.
Thank you in advance.
And by the way, the ocean view was awesome, Pat. That was cool.
Yay.
He went.
Yay.
Good
Oh,
job.
there's
Good
Jean
job.
in the squad. Jean, are you with Kim? You don't have to go off mute. It's okay. I'm happy that Kim was with you or here. Anyway. Well, again, thank you all so much.
No,
It really
no,
is
no,
it's fun for us to get to do that. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, no, here we are. No, these are our friends that were supposed to see you when we all came to Paso.
Yes.
Then Fox Hill
hello.
kept them way too long. So I decided they had to meet you this way, and they are converts.
We are.
Cheers. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully next time you make the trip from the East Coast, you're able to come hang out with us in real life.
Yeah, they will. They will.
Yes.
They're really
Molly, I have a question.
Yeah.
Somebody.
Can you hear us?
eating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Molly, we were there in July. Actually there at your winery, and Bob spent a lot of time with us. Thank you, Bob, because it was a great experience.
My
We
pleasure.
joined the club. So we're here with our friends, Debbie and Paul Piso, who have been friends for years, since pre-COVID, right? And so they have made an awesome spread for us to, they have replicated everything that we need to taste with the wine, with the tastings. It was great. So this is the first time we've been a member, and I loved every tasting tonight. It was unbelievable. So I just need to know, how do I adjust my order to include the things that we've tasted tonight?
You are
We
here
are
at the
so
right
impressed.
moment.
Thank you
You're
so much.
speaking my language.
I'm so glad that we became members. and
So I'll
thank
give you a
Paul and Debbie.
short verbal
wanted-
explanation. And then Ivy, if it is of help, we're happy to literally jump on the phone with you tomorrow, or we can also record a little video of like us on the screen. But the short verbal explanation is you'll log in. So on altaclina.com in the top right, there's a little login, and you'll go to your profile, and I'm actually going to have Ivy jump in because I'm going to tell you the wrong heading, and that will be bad. Ivy can tell you
Yes,
for
okay,
sure.
I'm happy to. So, for any of you that have member orders to customize, this is all I do all week. I have the whole week blocked out. So you have my phone number. Please let me know. I'm happy to help. We're not like those kind of people who tell you to go figure it out on a website. I'm happy to do it for you or talk you through it. Some people like to be empowered and know how to log in. That's great. Also, this is my job. So if you just want me to do it, I can click the buttons for you. You know where to find me. But the easiest thing to do is to log into your Alta Colina page. There's a really cool thing there called the magic link. You can click it and you don't have to remember a password. It'll just send you an email. You can click it and log in, and then you go to the club tab and you should see your upcoming shipment. And there you can edit your bottles. You're basically locked into either 4, 6, or 12 bottles. That's your membership level. And if you build an order that's 12 bottles or more, you get complimentary shipping. So we always recommend. We have a couple wines that are great for sort of an everyday price point, and also the subscription that Maggie mentioned. So anyway, I'm happy to talk you through all those details. I've added wines to the package as of tomorrow. You'll be able to go in and select all the wines we talked about. If there's something on there that you really want, like a library wine or something that isn't listed, but it's a favorite, let me know. Bob almost always has a couple bottles of something in the back. So
Bob's
we
a
can
sucker.
find you
I
something.
mean, as you can
Yeah.
see, like, it's not just 2 of us, it's 4 of us, and you know what? We love your wines, and we would love to encourage others to love your wines as well, so thank
Well,
you.
and to do it from Louisiana, that's my favorite part. So
Yeah.
you just
We
you let
are,
me
we
know.
are,
I'll
we
get you
are,
all
and
the-
so we joined forces and came together to have this tasting together in Louisiana.
Yeah,
That's
just
so
one,
great.
got a funny story.
yeah, one quick story. We
Yeah,
were
change
there in 2000, we were there in
in the little-
2017 with the McGarrises, and they're members also. And your GSM, that's what got me that year. You know, I think it was in 2015. So fast forward, we did another trip in 2022 with my wife's family, with their siblings.
Yep.
So, and every time we come, Alta Colina is always a trip, probably twice a year. So this year we had a reunion of that trip. And so we broke out all of the wines, and when we ran out all the wines that we wanted to, Larry McDarris, he went into my wine rack. He goes, "We can open anything in here?" I'm like, "Go for it." He goes, "You have another bottle of 2015 GSM.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Open it up." and it was amazing. It was
You're a
absolutely.
good friend.
We love Larry and your whole crew. Anytime we see Pizzo on the reservation book, everyone gets excited. So you're welcome.
Yeah, that Debbie was just saying, the next morning I was like, wait, did we open the 2015 GSM last night? It was a long night, but. it was really
A
good.
good night.
But
That
anyway,
sounds
so
wonderful.
your wines are making
you.
its way to Louisiana and we love it. So thank you so much.
That's great. Well, we love you guys too. You're welcome anytime.
Yeah,
But
thank
yeah,
you,
I
Molly.
meant when I said if you guys need any help, this is my week this week. So please let me know. We send out the release email to the rest of the membership on the 8th. So you have about, gosh, 4 days by the time I get to my computer tomorrow. So please take advantage. We do that because you guys are our most loyal group typically, and we want you to have first access by joining this tasting. So please take advantage of customizing. Once we open everything up to the rest of the membership, these wines go fast. So let us know as soon as you do what you want, and I'll put it in, and that way you're locked into your order. Yeah.
How to do it.
All of you, thank you so much. It's really lovely to see all of your faces, and it's, I feel like all of us in our journey with Zoom over the last 5 years has been fraught, but this is one of our favorite things to get to do around. Puppy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It looked a little bit like Honey right there.
There's Honey's little friend.
Yeah.
It's Kayla. All right, got derailed. I mean, come on, stealing the show.
Look at that.
I don't know where my dog is.
Yeah, where's
She's
my
over in
dog?
the corner.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jocelyn's dog. Okay, I'm gonna do the thing that never works.
We got one too.
There's Honey. Hey, buddy.
Honey, what's going on, honey?
There she is. Hello.
Oh, it's in the bushes. But honey, yeah, look at it.
Oh my God, Jocelyn, that little dog is cute. All right, that's truly, that's one of my favorite things about Zoom is when the pets make a cameo.
Oh, there's another one. Ho, ho, ho.
So cute.
Yeah,
Wine lovers all around.
checking it
Well,
out.
again, thank you all so much, and truly get in touch anytime. We love doing this, especially, many of you live places farther afield. You're on the Oregon coast, you're in Louisiana, you're in Florida, you're in Texas, you're in New York, you're in Chicago. And it's just a nice way to come together. This is the best part of wine, is the enjoying it part with great people who love it and appreciate where it comes. Oh my God, a dog calendar is such a good idea. Whoever just put that in the chat. Anyway,
Yes,
squirrel.
Christmas is coming.
Stay tuned. But yes, thank you all. We appreciate your ongoing enthusiasm and support. And for folks who are new to Alta Colina, welcome. And we hope to get to see all of you either on screen or in
Another
real
one,
life.
there's another one.
And, oh,
Beautiful.
the dogs. Okay, before I just lose the thread completely, everyone enjoy your evenings. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Cute dog. Good night, everybody.